Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I'm Naomi McNish. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. CARICOM to observe TNT's 2025 general election. Over 200 gang arrests since the state of emergency began. Investigation underway in Beetham Gardens shooting death. And internationally, Trump's gender declaration sparks global criticism. Now for the details. The Office of the Prime Minister announced that CARICOM has accepted the government's invitation to send an observation mission for the 2025 general election. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley extended the invitation in December 2024, fulfilling a commitment made in Parliament. CARICOM's Secretary General, Dr. Carla Barnett, confirmed the organization's readiness to assist in upholding democracy and good governance across the region. The government reiterated its dedication to ensuring free, fair, and transparent elections. Trinidad and Tobago police have arrested 204 people linked to gang activities since the state of emergency started on December 30th. Assistant Commissioner of Police Richard Smith revealed the majority of arrests occurred in the Port of Spain division. Police Deputy Commissioner Junior Benjamin highlighted a significant decrease in violent crimes, including murders, shootings, and kidnappings, compared to last year. Officials credit anti-gang legislation and strategic operations for the decline. Despite the gains, police are preparing new strategies to sustain these improvements after the SOE ends. The death of 36-year-old Sharida Ali, killed during a shootout between police and bandits in Beetham Gardens on January 18th, remains under investigation. Police said Ali was struck by a stray bullet while standing in her friend's kitchen. The Police Complaints Authority is conducting a parallel investigation to determine if the fatal shot came from law enforcement or bandits. PCA head David West assured that any findings implicating a soldier will be referred to the Chief of Defense Staff. Police offered condolences to Ali's family and vowed to review their tactics in densely populated areas. Internationally, in his inaugural speech on January 20th, U.S. President Donald Trump announced the federal government will officially recognize only two genders, male and female. Speaking in Washington, D.C., Trump said this policy aims to create a colorblind and merit-based society, ending what he described as social engineering around race and gender. The announcement has been met with outrage from LGBTQIA+ organizations globally. Local activist Kennedy Maraj called it a harmful step back, undermining the rights and dignity of non-binary, transgender, and intersex individuals. Advocacy groups warn the policy could intensify discrimination and mental health challenges for marginalized communities. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I'm Naomi McNish. Thanks for watching.
WESN.
Her voice has mesmerized us for years.
And now, in a rare treat for music fans,
Shakuntala and Friends in concert, featuring Shakuntala Jangbahadur. Singing sensation Deval Cheklal, brilliant musician Dr. Shivanan Maharaj, master flautist and saxophonist Narendra Maharaj, with music from Shiv Sangeet Orchestra, Shakuntala and Friends in concert.
Shakuntala.
Between the Bank and the Gutter, a novel about street dwellers in Port of Spain. This is a book to make you both laugh and cry. Above all, it takes you to that special space that only street dwellers know. In this moving and riveting human interest story, Harry journeys from insanity to sanity while living on the streets of Port of Spain. Now available at Metropolitan Books, 12 Aripita Avenue, Woodbrook. Paper-based bookshop, 14 Alcazar Street, Woodbrook. WESN, 30A Gattaca Street, Woodbrook. And the home store branches located at Barataria, Shogunas, and East Gates Mall. Autographed copies now available on request. Also available from author Louis Lee Singh. I Used to Live in Heaven, Letters to My Granddaughters, Local Government in Trinidad, Conspiracy Against the People, and Closer to the Church.
WESN.
Interesting what comes to the forefront of national discourse. It's also interesting, in my opinion, on what our local politicians, what they decide to communicate, how they decide to communicate it, the tone, the medium, the channels of communication, the length of the message, the words used, the strength of the words. Now, yesterday I spoke about the statements made by Kamala Persad-Bissessar, opposition leader, on the outgoing Biden administration. And for the most part, I can't remember everything exactly, but I'm confident to say I only disagree with one thing, at least that I have seen. So I will say that I technically agree with most of what she said. Because she said things that weren't new to me. She said things that I've been following for approximately the last 9 years. She said things that are very real and have been experienced by people on the ground. And any attempt to deny it would actually be somewhat futile because, as Senator Arnold Roberts pointed out, there's a major reset button on international politics. Because whether we like it or not, Trump has a mandate to do certain things, to fix things that the public of the country that elected him did not appreciate. Now, I don't know to what extent that means that they love him and see him as the best candidate. I do know that they saw him as the best candidate to deal with the problems that they had because, and this is something that to some extent we are experiencing with as well, the politicians of both sides of the aisle were seemingly more invested in the corporate needs than the national needs, with corporate agendas rather than with the agendas that suited the needs of the people. That's why you get into a situation where you are telling border security agents that illegal immigrants have broken no laws, being totally oblivious to the contradiction in that statement. By definition, illegal immigrants enter a country illegally, thereby they break the laws of how to enter said country. And if you want to remove those laws, the proper process of any right-thinking individual would be to change the law, not to say, let's just ignore the law on the books that these law enforcement agents have to enforce, otherwise they could lose their job and or potentially be the subject of an investigation against them. Notice that similar things happen here where we seemingly don't want to change our laws, where we want to kind of do things informally, and then we wonder why the situation potentially blows up in our face. That is just one example, right? And that example goes even deeper because people love to think, hey, immigration is supposed to be this gift to the world. No, it's not. It is a means by which a country can improve its socio-economic and demographic position. That's what it is. To some extent, we do it too. That's why we have some economists that are proponents of utilizing the increased labor force that Venezuelan migrants offer. But a government is not a charity to outsiders, and the reason why I could say this in this specific instance is that I have seen the protests by poor Americans, usually black Americans, with regards to their lamentations that there is nothing for me, and yet how much money are you spending on this relatively small number of illegal immigrants, because it's a drop in the bucket compared to the amount that has been coming in day after day, year after year. And when you start to rack up the numbers in the millions, you have nothing for me, but you could find stuff for them, to take care of them, but you can't take care of me. And therein lies why voters started to move away from the Democratic Party in this election. And it's a trend that has been going on from what I understand. I can't speak to before 2016, but it's a trend that's been going on in the last 3 elections in America. Minorities are voting. It's not large shifts, but it shifts nevertheless. More and more Republican. Small numbers, but numbers that are pointing to a change in the whole racial dynamic of American politics in the long run that's going to look very unnatural and foreign to those of us that assume the status quo is what it is and should remain as it should be. Now, I don't know to what extent the criticisms to Kamala Persad-Bissess's statements, how much criticism she got, but I want to center on some of the things reported to have been said by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Amy Brown, who took an issue with Kamala Persad-Bissess calling the outgoing Biden administration a disaster. And then wanted to say that this was, and let me make sure. It was ill-advised public communications. It was inappropriate. It was undiplomatic and, at worst, dangerous to the interests of CARICOM and Trinidad and Tobago. And the funny part about it is, a lot of the minister's positions makes me think that while that he is analyzing the situation with assumptions that this is the usual business as usual, and therefore what the opposition leader said and the tone that she used was not good. And I would argue that, to some extent, ironically, some of the very things he is cautioning the opposition leader about, he runs the risks of violating himself. Because first of all, let's say it what it is. I've seen American media, I've seen black American media, basically say that Kamala Harris, she didn't just lose, she had her rear end whooped, and they didn't use rear end. She lost every swing state. She lost the popular vote. And let's not forget, the polls were saying it was going to be close. It wasn't close. They overestimated her chances. Apparently, potentially, they say people didn't want to reveal to the public who they were going to vote for because the status quo said that Republican was evil. And then once it came out that he won by a landslide, all of a sudden, you see the winds of change in corporate media. All of a sudden, The View has producers correcting their hosts with regards to the statement they said in real time. Let's not run afoul of a lawsuit now, because the machine and the status quo and the system are not going to no longer be able to display the inherent bias that it has within the last 8 years. Facebook all of a sudden wanted to make donations to Trump because, and I suspect Mark Zuckerberg never wanted to be as far left. But the industry, the tech industry said he had to be left. California said he had to be left. I think he wants to be in the middle, because why take the risk of being political and then alienating part of your customers? Something that corporate America has done very, very often in the last 8 years. The thing is, no one had anything good to say about Kamala Harris as a candidate Except the one thing used in her defense is the fact that she tied herself too closely to the Biden administration, and the Biden administration was that bad it sunk her chances at the election. So I would like to know exactly how is that technically not a disaster? Yes, the language might be undiplomatic, but this is not the norm. More on that later. Not too later. Let's not forget, the polls that were wrong about Harris' chances, they basically said Biden had no shot. So one of the questions we have to ask is, did they overestimate Biden's chances as much as they overestimated Harris's chances? It was a situation that a lot of the public were not happy with because it affected their bottom line, their ability to meet the cost of living. Period. The end. All of the other pie in the sky stuff, some of which was mentioned by our own opposition leader, most of which I agree with, although it does not necessarily describe what my actual positions are on that matter, so be careful on that. One of the problems with issues like these is you make a general statement and people want to assume the entirety of your position. And that's one of the reasons why American media and the Democratic Party and the progressive left got themselves into trouble with moderate voters and people in the middle. Not just with conservatives. But like I said, I've been following this a long time, and I do wonder to what extent the politicians on both sides of this specific disagreement, to what extent have they followed these things? I would hazard a guess that they haven't. Because part of following these things is you need to understand, the now President Trump, he's a sledgehammer. This is obvious, right? He's not a subtle man. He is not someone with decades of political experience that understands how to navigate issues with grace and diplomatic words, you know, in order not to ruffle feathers while promoting harmony and gently nudging the nation in the direction he thinks that they need to be nudged. That's not him, whether we like it or not. I mean, the reports with regards to the Middle East ceasefire is his envoy, who also is not a career diplomat, basically told Netanyahu, I don't care that it's the Sabbath, we're going to meet now, and you're going to agree to the ceasefire because my boss, who has not even taken office yet, wants this thing done. And so it was done. This is not the status quo of how things normally work with regards to politics in Washington and the international community. So here's the interesting point. I don't think saying that Biden's administration was a disaster is not putting the gold stamp on Trump. Those are two separate things. Both sides of a political debate can be a disaster, right? Let's just put that out of the way. In fact, isn't that to some extent the position of moderate voters in this country, people in the middle? Both parties are the same side, or different sides of the same coin? But more importantly, why is our Minister of Foreign Affairs taking a position that potentially can be interpreted as a defense of the outgoing administration? The outgoing administration that essentially was so unpopular that Trump got the popular vote in every swing state. Because, let's be real, I highly suspect that if things were operating on a more normal, even keel, a man like Donald Trump probably wouldn't be elected. He's like, to some degree, Winston Churchill. You elect him because there's a bit of a crisis going on, and we need him specifically to not just pussyfoot around, but deal with it. Now, we may regret how it's being dealt with, but when things get more normal, like what happened with Churchill at the conclusion of World War II, then we might want to move on from him. That's not what's going on right now. He has a mandate. And just like how his diplomat to Israel or negotiator is not going to be what you're accustomed to, the people in charge of OFAC might be not what you're accustomed to. They might take their marching orders straight from the top. Who knows exactly how much Donald Trump might want to be involved with regards to this whole Venezuelan thing. Who knows if he's going to consider our needs or not. And to some extent, just like I understand the language that the opposition leader used can be considered undiplomatic, but let's not then use strong language to rebuke her and potentially implying that we agreed with the outgoing Biden administration, thereby potentially making ourselves viewed in a negative light by the current administration, who we would like to very, very please with a cherry on top, give us our dragon deal. Not so? We want the dragon deal. Our current government has made a great deal over this dragon deal. And I've tried to downplay the impact of what would happen if Trump won the presidency. He didn't just win the presidency, they have the Senate and the House too. I don't think I've ever heard of an American politician get such a strong mandate. Everything is aligned for him to potentially do whatever he wants for the next 4 years. And at least part of corporate America has woken up and smelled the roses. So regardless of if we think he's a good man, a bad man, if we like him, if we don't like him, maybe we should kind of hold off on doing anything that may or may not antagonize him. Because ironically, if you think he is that unreasonable, and more importantly, again, I don't think the opposition leader said anything untrue for the most part. It might have been better for her to say it in a more diplomatic way. And I could understand that when Biden was incoming, she had nice things to say, and now that he's outgoing, she had bad things to say. But to be fair, I don't think anyone expected his administration to have such a poor track record as it did. That not even his friend, his own president, could have given him the boost needed, or the boost that his VP needed. And that's the thing. The current climate might be one where forget the niceties, forget the kissing rear ends and the brown nosing, forget all of the song and dance. A more direct approach might be warranted. Maybe, I don't know. But to some extent, I'll also say this. I do wonder if some of the content of what the opposition leader said with regards to some of the extreme left policies, and make no mistake, I am kind of waiting for the right to go off its chain and go crazy, because the pendulum will overcompensate. That's what I believe. So I'm just waiting for that. But right now, it went too far left. And I'm wondering when we're going to have that debate, and maybe this is the start of it, and I'm willing to wait on it because some of these things I have strong opinions about. Questionable behavior of ethics, whether general or medical. And I have already stated my case on some of them. And I have no problem having a conversation with anybody that wants to have conversations on those topics. Because 9 years in, I haven't really seen any sort of reasonable defense on some of these positions. But I've only seen the complaints of people that have to live through the consequences. And that's why, at the end of the day, it's not about if I think the opposition leader is a good politician or a bad politician. She said something, and I didn't have a problem with it. Now again, if you want to say that she could have said it in a more diplomatic way, fine. Maybe she herself is, buttering up the American president. Who knows? But I just find it interesting that to some extent, the message of our Minister of Foreign Affairs, he is concerned that taking a hard stance on the outgoing administration will somehow cause us to get in trouble with the current, now already established or sworn in administration. How does that exactly work? I'm not entirely sure. I just know we're going to have the conversation now about that OFAC license, among other things, that, hey, I'm not saying that we desperately want it, kind of based on how the current administration of our government has been presenting this thing to us. One would assume they very much want and need it if their plans are to come to fruition and not fall apart. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with the good lady. This is talking about a WSN. We'll be right back after this.
Simon's Musical Supplies Limited. We are the specialist in new and used musical instruments, carrying top brands like Yamaha, Pearl River pianos, vinyl and Sabian cymbals, Remo and Evans drumheads and Fender guitars, just to name a few. Also a wide assortment of music books, pan and accessories. At Simon's, we service what we sell. Trust the leader. Call us now at 625-6412 or visit us at 20 Board Street, Port of Spain. SM Group International Limited, your solutions partner for the latest innovations, brands and competent staff to meet your needs. We provide products and services in the following divisions: executive services, event rental and services, power and heavy equipment, construction and property management, food and beverage, aggregate and sales and distribution. Check out more on our products and services at www.smgrouptt.com. Contact us at 221-7445 or email at info@smgrouptt.com. We are SM Group International, your solutions partner.
The best for your baby is at thebesttoys.com. From the best strollers, car seats, baby carriers, high chairs, booster seats, rockers, jumpers and bouncers, walkers, baby blankets, feeding accessories, bathtubs. Visit us in-store at Forces Flagship McLean. Shop online now at thebesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 332-BABY. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide: Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
Do you need treatment for obesity or any related abdominal procedures? The community hospital now offers minimally invasive laparoscopic surgery done by an American-trained, board-certified surgeon with over 20 years' experience.
Give us a call at 235-5479
for more information.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist, where good private health care is affordable.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable.
Her voice has mesmerized us for years.
And now, in a rare treat for music fans,
Shakuntala and Friends in concert, featuring Shakuntala Jang Bahadur. Singing sensation Deval Chaitlal, brilliant musician Dr. Shivanan Maharaj, master flautist and saxophonist Narendra Maharaj, with music from Shiv Sangeet Orchestra, Shakuntala and Friends in concert.
Shakuntala.
Hello there and welcome to AM Prime on WESN Content Capital. Before we even start this repatriation and reintegration process that we've already failed, or are we doomed to fail?
You've got to invest in the institutions that you've established to carry out those sorts of core functions.
We now get into the regional updates to give you an understanding of what's happening across our neighboring islands.
We have available a number of films that are worth showing.
So it was day one when the French Revolution started to develop the concept of universal human rights.
What happened this time is unprecedented. It's one of the largest terrorist attacks in history.
Let's welcome Carl to the program. Carl is over there next to Seth. Hello, Carl.
Silky anteater or pygmy anteater, and we have two of the three species of anteaters right here.
It is a whole new world, right? As my colleague, our analyst, our legal scholar, our former minister finds, she's waving off all the introduction, right? Well, you see, you forgot that we were coming back, right? Because of course the conversations, folks, one of the interesting things is the conversations are dynamic, even though if you just look at it on the surface, it's the same old thing. No, it's not the same old thing, because like I was saying, it's a whole new world, whether we like it or not. And in some cases, we might like some of these things, and in some cases, we might absolutely hate the direction that things are going in. But the direction that they're going in is going to be it one way or the other. And in order to now try to help unpack the current new reality that we are going to face, because we are not, ironically, we are not an Twin Island state in isolation to the rest of the world. We have Mrs. Karen Shishera.
Thank you, Mr. Sean Small. And yeah, we were really having a little animated conversation before we came on because there's so many things going on. So I'm going to try to, which is a difficult thing for me to do, but I'm going to try to be as concise as possible so that hopefully we can deal with very briefly on two other matters. But the main matter is, of course, this whole implication of Trump's ascendancy to be president of the United States, and he's issued a number of executive orders, which we won't have time to look at, and they have implications, yes, for us too. But the one that we really want to look at right now is the one that has potential impact on our natural gas shortfall, which we are all familiar with, and we have spoken for several months, and maybe even a year. I'm not quite sure. When we spoke to the, on this show, certainly, and said, do not conflate the 30-year license that Venezuela has granted with the absolutely necessary OFAC license, the Office of Fixed Assets Control, which is the sanctioned tool the United States uses and has always used, which I've spoken about. And the point about it is we do know that suddenly everyone is now talking about OFAC as if now they woke up to the fact that it's really OFAC is the game player. It's not the 30-year license that Venezuela granted, which I said already, which is a good thing, but he granted it to anybody that gets money because so many of the bank accounts that are owned by the oil company have been blocked.
and we've had to start to pay on our end, I think. No, it's not like a lot of money, grand scheme of things, but it's not small money either. We've had to start making payments, I believe, on the license with Venezuela.
That's correct. That is correct. But the critical issue is that in the event that anyone doubts that analysts, the political analysts, are not looking at this, you see 2 days ago in one of the daily newspapers, the headline, analysts, Trump presidency unstable, Caribbean will bend to U.S. policy. So I don't want to go through all that what was said, but it is consistent with the fact that this whole Dragon field and the other cross-border gas field on which we seem to be dependent on to save us, to be our savior, which at least that's how the government project it, are at risk, because you have someone like Rubio, who is, I think, the Secretary of State, who is very much against Venezuela, the maximum pressure issue failing, and of course going after Cuba, and any indications of how America is going to deal with Venezuela. And it's not that what they do with Venezuela, it directly impacts us, because where we're looking for the natural gas, according to our government, is from gas fields in Venezuela primarily. So that's why it becomes important to us. And what are some of the signs, apart from the analysts all saying the same thing, that this may impact our ability to get the natural gas? Because if we are seen by Venezuela as being a friend of, by the United States as a friend of Venezuela, that's not good for us, and not under our Trump presidency. Because one thing you could say about Trump, he talks, and he walks it. And so there were instances when he was president in 2016, 2017, 2019, someone brought those to my attention. It's Ron DeSantis, Florida governor.
Yeah.
But in any event, he did not rule out military intervention in Venezuela. He kept on saying it. I went through the background, but I looked at the dates, and they were 2017, 2018, and as late as 2019, before he no longer was president. So clearly it's something that he is committed to. And if you have any issues or concerns about that, apart from what the analysts are saying, you have SOFA. And it's SOFA now, which is where I think one of the media personnel got himself into hot water and is touted now as a hero because he would not back down. He asks about SOFA, which stands for Status of Forces Agreement. Now, about five agreements were signed in the U.S. Embassy with the then Biden administration. But what has been stated, and this is what we could not get the Prime Minister, and he seems to have gotten very angry as our former Prime Minister Manning has described him as, hoping that his anger and his aggression would shut the media personnel down. He certainly did not. He kept his calm. So what did it say? This undisclosed amendment to the original SOFA, which was signed in 2007 and due to expire in January 2025, has included a new clause, and I think it's specific to us in Trinidad. Because of our geographic location, we are next to Venezuela, we are next to Guyana. Though not disclosed, but according to Newsday, allows for U.S. to request deployment of its military troops in case of natural disasters or a conflict in neighboring Venezuela. This, according to Newsday report, would allow the United States to install troops to target Venezuela. Prime Minister Rowley has denied this and labeled the Newsday's claim as irresponsibility of the worst kind. But so we can't discount what is this amended agreement in the SOFA that allegedly allows them to land troops here at the request of our government. But we're not going to go against America, are we? So Prime Minister Rowley is between a rock and a hard place. Because on the other hand, we're hearing from Dr. Irfan Ali, whose 2/3 of his country are being claimed by Venezuela. And that's where ExxonMobil, a United States company, is operating. And it's billions of dollars we are talking about. And Venezuela has lined up troops along the disputed border, according to them. They're saying the arbitral award of 1899 doesn't hold, but that's a whole different story. But clearly there's a buildup of tension. So, of course, Venezuela is no match for, Ghana is no match for Venezuela. But with the United States and Trump in their back pockets and willing to do battle with them and for them, not for Guyana so much, but for their interest in Guyana, because of the disputed claim, which is saying is not disputed, it was agreed to. You can see them using it for that purpose. Secondly, and this is more of a newer development, it was only reported a few days ago, we know about the ExxonMobil interest in Guyana, and Dr. Irfan Ali going very far. He didn't just welcome the presidency of President Trump, but he spoke about all the agreements they have had over the years, and he specifically talked about the security arrangements. Read what you want out of that. But then also we have Chevron. Now, Chevron was allowed under OFAC to continue operating under Chevron sanction, relief from sanction 41, on the understanding under Biden's administration, oil for fuel. So you would provide us with crude oil, because Venezuela is the largest, has the largest supply of crude oil in the world, and the third largest exporter of crude oil to the United States. But of course, you hear President Trump saying, drill, 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 drill. So that in itself says something. But what has come out in the paper, somebody leaked it, that contrary to just this arrangement where no money was to pass, Chevron, a U.S. company, paid $300 million U.S. to the government of Venezuela in taxes, and that was revealed a few days ago. So we have Chevron on one hand, not complying with the sanction agreement under Sanction 41. We have the Bmobile situation building up and forces building up along the Guyana border. You have the president of Guyana welcoming the U.S. presence, and Trinidad and Tobago being in a very difficult position that they cannot be seen to be going against the United States.
Right, and I just want to, just to highlight things. Apparently, within the first day of his administration, not too long after he was inaugurated, Venezuela came up. And Trump is reportedly saying he was looking at Venezuela very strongly. And at minimum, they are looking to stop buying Venezuelan oil. As you said, drill, baby, drill. He's quoted of saying we don't have to buy their oil, we have plenty of oil for ourselves. But he's also looking at the fact that, hey, the country's a mess. He's the one that put the sanctions in. And given what we see with the Israel-Palestine situation, where the Biden administration essentially didn't really do much of anything to try to get the ceasefire working, I think it's safe to say that, if anything, Trump is willing to be decisive. Whether or not it's going to be the right action or not, it's going to be decisive, right? So the question is, exactly what is he going to do with regards to Venezuela? Because he's looking at it. And
one thing I forgot to say, because you got to read the tea leaves, you know. You've got to read those tea leaves. The other thing, too, President Trump has invited the Gonzalez, who was defeated, and of course defeated in the elections last elections in Venezuela. He has been specifically invited by the President of the United States to his inauguration.
And this is an election that the Biden administration has acknowledged not being sufficiently free and fair and democratic, and as such they themselves, by their own metric, was supposed to slam the door shut on some of the rollbacks to the sanctions that they instituted last year and or the year before, right?
So listen, I don't want to be Debbie Downer or coming to say anything, but you know, you have to face, you can't fix a problem unless you acknowledge it. Now, if you don't understand what is at play here, it is not Trinidad they're going after, but what is more troubling is others have said, well, you know, he won't go that far because it's a geopolitical issue.
Why?
And no, this is the argument.
I know.
This is the argument that has been used. The days of the Cold War are over, right? And one of the arguments that was made is that why he would not go that far is because he wants to have control over the geopolitical region of the Central Latin American Caribbean. But what has been reported is that he does not care. He is out, and Rubio is out to get rid of Venezuela government, get one that they are more amenable to, and also destroy Cuba. That is what is on their mind. And in fact, one of the articles I read was saying that this idea, and it comes from, I wish I could pull it up, had said that if the St. Vincent and all these Caribbean islands feel that, that this is December 16, 2024, U.S. officials have praised the extension. Okay, what they really said at the end is that if they believe that President Trump is going to allow the issues of geopolitics of the Caribbean, he said, and other articles have said, it will not be the U.S. bending to Caribbean pressure, it will be Caribbean pressure bending to America. So that is why I believe Dr. Rowley got so angry, because he didn't want to disclose that he was effectively allowing them to use here as a landing base in case of conflict. And what is the conflict? Who? With Venezuela. And what over? We all know how Trump stands. I mean, there's a particular expression when they call a person who is, I mean, quite apart from everything else he is a man that is not going to be stopped. He's not a man, when he says what he's, and he did it right away, he sent over about 100 executive orders. But the one we're concerned about for this program is that we have said it, over and over again, and everybody doing as if the light bulb just went on. We have said so often, nothing will happen unless the OFAC, we get permission from America, because that's their tool of war, not using guns only or whatever. And I'm not criticizing them or anything. I'm just saying that's the reality. One of their tools of war, which they use in conjunction with whatever else they use, is sanctions. And that sanction with the dealing with Venezuela and getting natural gas out of Venezuela's gas fields, which we have been relying on, the Lauren Manatee. Yes, Manatee is in our waters, but 70% of the gas is in Venezuelan waters. The same thing now with the Coquina Manatee. 65% is in our waters. But Shell, who's the major beneficiary and also the major investor, it's coming to end October the 31st. Stop telling people that they're walking around and doing whatever it is you're saying, because they're doing it since 2018 to 2019. We know that is not true. That cannot be true. It doesn't make sense. Trinidad is in a serious problem. So what do I have to say? Am I going to be Debbie Downer and just say all is wrong? I will say this. I've been saying it for a long time on this station. Not so? We've been saying it so often. All of a sudden, everybody got a wake-up call. Even under Biden, he was putting the pressure on them, okay? So now that we've faced that reality, what I have suggested, and I am not saying it's a cure-all, I am just saying that, you know, the LNG represents, for a better analogy, the cocoa that we send out, like how we just send the sugar and then they send back the Cadbury chocolate first, where the downstream industries represent the chocolate, where the money really is, and the reality is in every area. I am not going to repeat all the data. The data is there. You can't argue with the data. You know, you might want to twist it if you want, but that's the data. In every area, there has been a downturn, and that's what the central bank has reported, right? And we have no control over prices. Yes, oil is about what we had put on the budget. That is the Minister of Finance is about that right now. And similarly with natural gas. But if you don't have the production, you have to have the production and you have to have the price too, right? And he has come out. This is the other thing too, which will lead me into leaving that alone, because I just want to quickly follow through. So I talked about the SOFA, I talked about Chevron, I talked about ExxonMobil, I talked about the buildup of troops. I've talked about what the analysts have said regarding what's going on in Venezuela with Trump being at the head and his commitment to bringing down the maximum pressure didn't work, and this arrangement that would allow them. And what is Trinidad going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? So what we could do, and it's a limited thing, and I think I've said it already, so don't say we didn't say it, is that a lot of our natural gas, as my understanding is, the first take on it is going to be for electricity production in the country. So some people say, oh, the wind might fail. Yes, the wind failed in Germany, and that's when it started the Ukraine war. But we're not only talking about the wind. There's a solar farm since 2018. So you don't put all your eggs in one basket. What you try to do is to generate other forms of electricity that does not depend on natural gas. Yeah. So you can take that natural gas, which we have a great shortfall of, and we don't know what's going to happen with the Venezuelan issue. As much as we might go on bended knees to Trump, I don't know. I can't predict the future. But what I could say is that what we should be doing is trying to divert the natural gas. For the cocoa, not so much, but we have no choice because they're the major investors and the major beneficiaries. That's LNG. No, that's where the cocoa is.
But
number one to go to the chocolate, which is downstream, you get very little.
There we go.
But that in the interim, the solar, the wind off of East Coast too, they're showing you that it is done, and you just cannot say, as some people have said, I could just say on whatever chat I'm on, you know, looking for why something can't work. Okay, go ahead and say why it can't work. Come up with a better solution. Quite apart from the fact we need to diversify. We know that. We know we need to earn foreign exchange, and I've put some ideas out there. Other people have. I'm not there. But if I'm dealing with energy, that's part of the solution. So don't down, because Europe is doing it, because after they got that thing that happened with Ukraine and Russia was a wake-up call for Germany, you know. And they realized when the wind stopped blowing, and they realized one of the things they started doing was building up the inventory, which very doesn't really apply to us because we have a shortfall. But what they started doing is really pushing renewable, not because just renewable for renewable's sake, because they do not want to be at the mercy of any other country. And that is why we need to take steps, that we need to pivot, as they say, and face the reality and stop telling the people things. Oh, and just let me just say this, please. You know, and it's, please let me just say.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm short. Because, and then I will think to you. You know, and that leads me into, you notice how Colin Bird's very quiet? Mm-hmm. You notice how Colin Bird, it's just so coincidental that that mic was on, and it's only after what was said, he said, hey, boy, you know, you had on the hot mic. And then he came out. I would have never thought he would have said that. He basically said, we have no money. That's why I didn't pay VAT refunds.
This is the VAT refunds thing, and they had a cash shortfall because they had a revenue shortfall.
Well, where's the revenue shortfall coming? The
revenue shortfall was from oil and gas. Let's not forget, when America does drill, baby, drill, and more oil and gas gets onto the market, where's the price going to go? Up or down?
But I'm talking about within our local politics, which I have pivoted to.
Right.
I believe that Colin Imbert's seat might go to Amy Brown. So I've heard. Amy Brown is not going to get a seat. Okay? Just because he didn't get to go out to West, Prime Minister is playing chicken with us. We don't even know if he really will resign. We don't know what he really do. He's watching how it's playing out, and he's watching how the polls are showing, and he's watching to see how people respond. And that is why Amy Brown taking his licks, like he went to Venezuela, then he came back as a senator, so you know you could roll out anytime. He take that because they are going to give him a seat, whether it's Port of Spain South or Diego Martin North, which I think Colin Imbert is very concerned about his position in the next election. That's my read on it. And that is why he started coming out and say, we don't have money. You ever heard me ever say that? And he knows where we don't have any money from. Guess from where? Energy. Guess who's the Minister of Energy? Read the tea leaves. No, I am not saying I am right, but I was inside the belly of the beast. I know many of the players. I have an idea of how they operate. I am not saying I'm right, but I do believe that we are in for a very rough ride, and it's a very dynamic situation, and I will not put my head on a block to tell you what the answer is. But Amy Brown is not out of the race because he so gracefully took it. Yeah. He know better than, you know why? Because he don't want to be a senator again. He wants to be in that house. Yep. Right? He don't want him to send him back to Brazil anymore. He take his looks nice. And the Prime Minister know one thing. He can't get rid of Penny. He can't get rid of Foster. Because if he want to make sure the PNM lose the election, you don't get Penny that seat. You don't get Foster coming in that seat. You're already on shaky ground because they say your stepping down was the best thing happened to the PNM. That's what's reported in the papers. Yes. And the one they want to put in is a mini-me of you.
Well, and we saw to some extent what happened with the Democratic Party in the last American election when they tried to have a continuation. Now what I said, when you said about the pivot, I wanted to say this. Yes, the pivot needs to start as soon as possible, and I think we should crawl before we walk, right? But we need to start it now so that we don't try to all of a sudden go from natural gas to renewables, right? We need to start putting things in place. Since
2018, we got a chance to start. What is it? You didn't. You listen. You and I had.
And this is an area where, you know, you can get the private sector on board to start to build up our industries. One of the initiatives that we're not hearing anything about now, but I think could have been the start of something is if people had their own solar on their house and then they could feed some of the excess energy back into the grid, all of that would be good, right? And it doesn't have to be that we need houses to be 100% solar powered. That kind of system might be expensive as we now start off. But if we could get more and more houses using some solar, having some capacity, it will lower our electricity bill, right? The cost of the natural gas to generate that electricity. Again, crawl before we walk, right?
But also to allow the natural gas to be used somewhere else. You get revenue, because you do get revenue
because
for that.
The reason why I want to say that, Karen, is just look at the Office of the Procurement Regulator. It came out. It came out that, look, some institutions and state entities just were not ready for the transition. And we don't have the resources and the manpower to just do the transition like that.
Keeping on the oil point, there's a headline in the papers where the procurement regulator said she is not sure of her... Exactly. But she should be, I don't know, under Section 7 of the Procurement Act, that the petroleum the refineries and excluded from the overview of the procurement regulator. And she is quoted as saying, the headline says, that she is not sure of her role, and I want to know why. And I want to know who is the consortium, the local consortium behind those 3 companies. I want to know why. We are entitled to know that information. Is too much things shrouded in mystery and too much getting your own way. Jindal didn't work. Jindal went home. You take Jindal in your house, take a picture with him, and enough backlash came with all what people were able to publish. So you had to let him go. And now you have the procurement regulator who should be able to oversee the documents, the bidding process, what things. This is what her role is. That's what the regulator, accountability, transparency, and value for money. That's what it is. But why is she not involved? But she's saying she has minimum. She has to be careful too. I mean, I know she doesn't want to rock the boat too much, but you know, what about the little that she says lets you know that staying on the energy point, why is she not in charge of that? Why is she not playing the role of and she said many of the, they have many of the changes that were supposed to be made. Yeah. And so have not been made.
They're not ready
serious? Are you really serious?
They're not in a position to be compliant, right?
Why are they not?
That's the question. I want to go back to one of the things you said, that some people wanted to make the case that Trump will fall in line with the geopolitical norms and the geopolitical
that was one
pressure.
of the arguments.
I would just like to find out, make no mistake, the man has an American first agenda, and he was given the popular vote, a landslide in the Electoral College, and they won the Senate and the House. Why are we going to assume that he's going to have anything to do with the geopolitical pressure of the region? Why?
No, that's what they've said. He's not.
I'm sorry. And then we need to understand, he is not like a normal politician, right? He is a hammer. America says, we have problems, we're going to use this hammer to fix it. Not every problem is technically going to be a nail, but gosh darn it, they're going to try and hammer every problem into submission, one way or the other, right? And the thing is, we need to understand something very, very important. The UN is not a legislative body. With legislative and legal oversight over nations, right? It's an entity that exists via treaty. All of its enforcement power comes from international treaty. If those treaties fail, the only thing that enforces those treaties is the willingness of the participants to opt in to that situation. And let's not forget, right now, because believe it or not, the one person that would have not allowed for this loophole to happen would have been Trump himself, because he said Europe wasn't paying for its own defense. So Europe right now, who are they depending on for their defense? The United States. Who is Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan depending on their defense? The United States. Do you think the G7 is going to necessarily stand against the United States and what they want to do in the UN, depending on whatever geopolitical pressure we may or may not have?
Hasn't he withdrawn from the WHO?
I'm not too sure. I haven't.
Anyway, let me just say, Trump says use of military force in Venezuela is still on the table. He said that as late as February 2019. That's reported in CNN. So I know that is when he was still president. So what I'm saying is, you don't know and everybody knows Trump might follow through on what he says that he's going to follow through with. And we are going to be, what I want to take out of it, Sean, I am not here to criticize the United States, and it's not in our interest really to do that either, to be very frank. What I'm concerned about is the implications of Trump's approach to both Venezuela, ExxonMobil, where they have an interest in the huge amount of energy there, and the interest in Venezuela, which they have both in the oil and getting a president who they approve of by even inviting Gonzalez to the inauguration, right? And what that means for us is that those OFAC sanctions, which the final investment decision was not made by Shell, and we're coming close to the end, and it's very unlikely they will. What does it mean for us if we do not have how much? I don't want to say the wrong amount, but it's, I think I said 2.4 billion per day. It might be the other way around, 1.6 billion cubic feet per day. But however you twist and turn it, we are not getting it, and that is being a major and only source of revenue. Really, and let's be frank with it. It is and you have Imbus now who very quiet, talking about how we have no money. And we have no money because the energy sector have no money. But he's showing pot shots, in my view, from being in government and sitting inside of there and understanding the games that are played inside there. My take on it, which may be entirely incorrect, is that he is at the same time playing, I'm supposed the government going to pay you at the end of January, but he's telling the country, we have no money because we have no energy revenue.
And let's not forget, the situation in Venezuela, technically speaking, the Biden administration did not look upon it favorably. So this is not the incoming Trump administration playing cowboy in a situation that no one invited them to, right? It's just that what's the main difference? Biden was not as decisive as what we have seen Trump in the Middle East. Why are we going to expect him to do anything less with regards to Venezuela? And he has said it. He has his eye on the situation. It's not something that he's overlooked. This is the first day he made that statement. So let's not assume that, the business as usual is going to take place. Why? Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll open the phone line. Stay tuned.
This is the article,
Bill and Ruth fell in love with the Benjamin Moore color Dry Sage, but they tried to match it using another brand's paint.
I mean, it's close enough.
Almost identical, really. Yeah, there it is.
Never trust another paint to be a Benjamin Moore color.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
My name is Dr. Stephen Carroll, the CEO at Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist, and we are committed to making good private health care affordable.
For all your medical needs, including dental, radiology, laparoscopy, behavioral and mental health, along with many other services, contact us for more information at 235-5479.
Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Simon's Musical Supplies Limited. We are the specialist in new and used musical instruments, carrying top brands like Yamaha, Pearl River pianos, vinyl and Sabian cymbals, Remo and Evans drumheads and Fender guitars, just to name a few. Also a wide assortment of music books, pan and accessories. At Simon's, we service what we sell. Trust the leader. Call us now at 625-6412 or visit us at 20 Board Street, Port of Spain.
And we're back here on talking about WSN, the content capital. This may be one of the more controversial shows that we've had, given the subject matter. And basically everything that includes the word Trump is controversial. It's, I do wonder to some extent if when we play All Fours, if it's so embedded into the cultural zeitgeist that it's in the back of our minds now whenever we kick the suit. Now, with that said, we have our first caller on the line. Just want to remind callers again to mute your televisions when you get on air on the phone, because They are not in sync. Don't try to follow the conversation while talking to us on your television. We have our first call, I think, from Diego Martin. Good morning, caller. You on the air? Caller, good morning.
Good morning, and good morning, Mr. Small and the Honorable former Minister of Finance, Mrs. Teixeira. Let me add another thread to the U.S. and Trump relationship, how it could probably play out. I think one of the first executive order or utterances he made is to basically call that gang in Venezuela a terrorist gang. The Tren de Agua. And if he has designated that as a terrorist gang, and 3 years ago, it was highlighted, they have operationalized in Trinidad and by extension certain CARICOM countries. So he has called that gang a terrorist gang. What and how our country is facilitating that terrorist gang, and by extension, how that gang is being facilitated throughout the CARICOM. He invited the Venezuelan opposition leader, and I think he acknowledged him as the president, the true president of Venezuela. You notice he did not invite the leadership of CARICOM to his inauguration. Why is that so? That tells you he has already have a disposition on how he's going to treat CARICOM. But I want to jump in quickly into another point. The missing files, 20 million, that we have no money, as Karen was saying, that that Embot is saying we dry, and we are spending our monies, our taxpayers' money, my money, nilly-willy. All that report laid in Parliament, it doesn't tell us who was culpable. And I suspect they're protecting the man who's responsible for it, that is the AG. They protected him because they couldn't throw the Solicitor General who was in office at that time because they elevated her a judge, I believe. So how they could elevate her to a judge and now question her? It's going to be another Marcia Caesar scenario. I'll go and have a nice morning.
Thank you, caller. I'll just say this, and Anram Logan has gone on record and to say that Reginald Lamar might be the one person who is put in a very bad light given how this situation was handled. So I'm not too sure if I agree with you. That said, it could be an unintended consequence and not an intended consequence.
What is
this is the missing file.
And what is the problem? They haven't said the name of the person.
No, they basically, even the report says no charges or disciplinary action, right?
You know, you expect any different?
And I don't think it protects Reginald Lamar. I think it makes him look bad.
Oh God, well, how about the senior citizen? Because I was in government and I know how legislation has to go through. I know when it reaches just for the public, it goes first to the cabinet, and then if questions are raised, questions are raised and issues are raised, then it goes to the finance and general purpose thing. And then from then, once they have made changes, then the law review commission, there's no way that thing with the senior citizen grant with the 25,000 could be an error. That's policy. No public servant could dare make policy on behalf of the government. Yet everybody get quiet and want to say it was an error.
Right,
he has lost so much credibility, starting with Miami, then with the senior citizen grant, coming to try to tell people is an error. That's policy you're dealing with, and now coming now and don't want to say who it is. You have an investment, but people want to know who it is, and you won't say who it is. Why?
Both of those situations, if we take what the government says at face value, essentially what there's no accountability with public servants now to make decisions that's leading us to a $20 million payout. We have more on the line. Good morning, caller. You're
policy you're dealing with.
Good morning.
Good morning. As a right-thinking citizen, we are calling on the government of Trinidad and Tobago to revalidate patriotic's bid for the point of pay refining. They need to be revalidated with what I'm hearing this morning concerning the procurement legislation. We are also calling on the government to not dispose of the Point Lisas refinery, the petroleum assets, without the regulations that deals with the disposal of state lands.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
But you know what's the issue with that? The issue with that is that I think was part 6 of the of the act. it says that the regulations have to be enacted. And remember, they use the lack of regulations not to implement large parts of the Procurement Act. And it is if they have done it, I am going to be surprised. But that change about disposal of state lands, that change in the legislation was made in 2016, but you need the regulations in order to give it effect. So I don't know if they have as yet implemented the regulation. They did it for the $1 million, so they could get $1 million without having to go to the procurement regulator. But as far as I know, if you look at the section, they have to have the regulations, and I don't know if it has been passed. And I think it's all deliberate. We all know it's deliberate. I mean, oh my God. It's just disgraceful, to tell you the truth.
I'm not sure. I don't think the details of the latest bid from Patriotic was revealed to the public in enough or sufficient detail for me to say if I think it's a good bid or a bad bid, right? I just don't know. So I can't say, ooh, Patriotic's bid should go through. It should maybe be considered, right? Here's the thing though. Having the Office of the Procurement Regulator involved in this process would make me more confident in the outcome.
Exactly, and they don't.
Right?
And
that's what it's there for.
And that's what she came out and said. It. I'm looking for the headline where she actually said, because I try to be as responsible as possible with my statements, and the procurement regulator said she has not played any role in that. And maybe part of the reason, procurement office unsure of role in refinery sale or lease is reported in the Newsday, and that was just in January this year, 2025. The Office of Procurement Regulation may not have a role in any decision taken to sell or lease a former Petrotrain refinery in Pointe-a-Pierre. Procurement Regulator Beverly Khan made this comment during a joint select committee on January 17th. And so and that is deliberate, you know. And she complained about, or said that a lot of the other state-owned enterprises have not complied with the new regulations that should apply to them in the sale or release of property. And in order to cover the Petrotrain sale, that's when they made an amendment to the Procurement Act by, I think it was Part 6, and put on sale of state lands. But it needs regulations. So maybe because they don't have regulations, they don't have to have her involved. And I think that's deliberate.
That's the thing. That's all part of the transparency of the situation. And
lack of this. I never see our government to tell you the gospel truth. I mean, all of them, and I'm not saying no to anyone not being, but my gosh, I mean, it is just so scandalous. It's so in your face that, I mean, it's almost, you know, I'm at a loss for words.
We have also on the line. I have something else that I want to say, but we'll take the call first. Okay. Good morning, caller, you on there? Caller, good morning.
Morning.
Happy New Year to both of you.
Thank you.
Belatedly. You know, in all fours, Sean, we have this cliche called Trump and follow suit. And I was just looking at his appointees, some of his appointees yesterday on the net. A lot of far-right appointees, including Mr. Rubin, very anti-Cuban, anti-Venezuelan, anti-this, anti-Russia, all of this. But it's interesting times. But what I wanted to just bring to your attention, this report on the fire that claimed the lives of the minister in the Ministry of Education, Julian, on December the 16th. A committee was formed on or around December the 21st, led by the ex-chief fire officer, Mr. Bruce, and two others. But I understand the report was forwarded to the minister past the 2-week deadline from the appointment. I think the minister has the report. And one of course, the many purposes of that report is to find out how the response time, the capability of the fire service and all of that stuff, the hydrants, all of that. But surely we need to find out also the cause of the fire.
There you are. Very good.
So where is that? Why is that report
very good
still with the minister and not being made public? I await your response, Ms. Karen.
Well, you can see from what you said, I was very pleased to see that you saw what I saw through the shenanigans and these red herrings. water, no water, the hydrant working, where the truck, not the truck. All of that, based on my being in government too, I understand, not that I understand it's a game that's being played. They want to distract you from asking what was the cause of the fire. So I have gotten something which I would not pass on because I can't say it is true, and I don't want, and you know, when you pass on things that you don't know are true, you could also be guilty of defamation. But let us just say, they're talking all those things to distract you. But what they need to deal, and I'm sorry for that the member of parliament lost her life. Do not think that I take any joy in her losing her life. I am very sorry for her and her young children and her husband and her family. But what I am saying is that you are hit the nail on the head. They will not, just like now with this thing with the missing file, they won't tell you the name. This with this thing now, and then the other one with Mr. Hector. They've all, the senior counsel came out and said he was not a prosecutor against that gang leader, but he used to be a legal advisor to the SSA. And then you have headlines, state prosecutors get more protection. And I've heard educated, intelligent persons, well qualified, coming and telling me up to 2 days ago, saying, but Karen, I thought it was because you were a state prosecutor. That's what they want you to do. They use this bait and switch, and they use it all the time. I hope Trinidadians understand what is being done to them. They do not want to answer, so they try to get you distracted with all kinds of other things. Rather, the real question is, why is it when, for example, again, Ministry of National Security, okay, if the Minister of National Security says he does not run the police service, defense, and military, their duty is to provide policy and to provide the equipment. But if every bit of the equipment mashing up, to use our parlance, being destroyed, every bit of it, and you pay huge billions of dollars in contracts, and nearly every single part of the equipment that is supposed to provide us with that protection, and the BBC, the CNN, the United States, everybody has told us is the transshipment of cocaine, how it is all the equipment that would be used, the scanners, the helicopters, the OPVs, the hostile ships, everything is in disrepair. You need a central center that has oversight over these things to make, because what's the point of having things that don't work? And if it is every international organization has identified the issue of crime, mainly coming from transshipment of cocaine, and the things, the equipment are billions of dollars, and it's excluded from Section 7 because there's a national security, that's why we're using that heading. How are we ever going to win the war against crime when the very things that you are giving these divisions to fight the war against crime are the very things that are being destroyed or are in disrepair? And every country in the world seems to know that our problem is the transshipment of cocaine, which is behind our crime. It's a most amazing circumstance, and for people to put their heads in the sand and pretend that they do not understand that is, well, they needed to keep their job, they need to keep the contract, and they know if they get fired, they know they have no job to get. I have to think that somebody consider, and I don't hold it against anybody, by the way, because I'm not in their position. But my Lord, it is so obvious what is going on. And I'm glad that, sir, that you said that. What is the cause? Why they don't answer that question and let us know?
I'll say this. You want to learn a lesson from a foreign jurisdiction? Right
yes,
now, there are questions about what was going on with the Los Angeles Fire Department and the California fires. And I don't know how true it is, but I've heard things about the fire department being under-resourced. I've heard things about corruption. I've heard things about misplaced priorities. I've heard things about fire hydrants being missing, being stolen, and of course there's a crime problem in certain cities in the U.S. We have to, yes, we don't necessarily have expectations like Los Angeles to have wildfires as frequently as they do, or major fires like that. But this is a tragedy that we do have to ask, to what extent were we negligent in our preparedness?
No, I'm
right?
sure. No,
right?
sure.
I just want to put that on top of it. But with that said, look at the Nipon Kuhlman situation. We have a report that gives us no conclusion. The situation, for all intents and purposes, is unresolved. Without knowing the cause of the fire, as you pointed out, to go back on that point, Then what's the point of the report?
Sean, that is exactly the point. You don't understand. Well, I was in government. That's why I feel I have and I was in a senior position, although Mr. Manning always said nobody's senior to anybody. But I mean, I dealt a lot with Mr. Manning, and I got to have an insider's view.
Finances are senior.
No, but he always, anyway, that's not the point. The point that I really want to make is that they are strategists working full-time. Full-time. There are polls going on full-time. And let me just say, all part of their MO, if you do not want to understand that, is to distract you so that you will not ask the real question. What was the cause of the fire? I got on, somebody sent it to me, and I will not discount it. I will not pass it on. But what was the cause of the fire? When it comes to the missing file, there have to be a person responsible. Let us know who it is. Why are you being so, you're not being transparent, you are not being accountable, and the same thing with the death of Hector, using Hector to tell us his state property, when you know that it was not the cause of his death, according to the reports in the papers. If you put one and one together, you will get two.
We have Stan Fernando in the line. Good morning, caller, you're on here.
Morning, Sean.
Morning.
That this issue with Mrs. Julian and this report. The report that you're speaking about, Karen, has, as far as I'm concerned, we do not need that report for them to say what was the cause of the fire, because that is separate from the investigation of the fire service.
Right.
The fire service does independent investigation.
Okay.
And I am appalled that the fire service has not come out. I am calling on the chief fire officer now to come out and tell us what are the findings of the investigation that the fire service did on that fire. We don't need that report to tell us that. And that is my problem with what's happening. Everybody just wants to fall in line and see what happened and are not saying anything. The chief fire officer has a right to come out and tell us what happened to that, what was the cause of that fire, because the fire service has done an independent investigation. They don't have to answer to this committee that was set up to investigate. They don't have to answer to that. That is something separate.
You mean it shouldn't have to?
Yeah.
And that is my issue. I can't understand this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we back to you all speaking about Mr. Trump and his new administration, and Sean, you rightly said, not only a hammer, it's a jackhammer that he's going to use, and we have seen what the stage has been set already for what to expect. So I hope Trinidad and Tobago understands that what America First means. If they don't understand what America First means, it's just America First and America First and only. That is the position that this administration is going to take. So we have to ride out this 4 years. I'm going to say quickly about Mrs. Bissessa's comments. I, as a politician, I understand her comments as a politician, because it's trying to line up your ducks in case you get into government.
Mm-hmm.
However, all I have to say is I will be glad to see the back of Candace Bond when they change ambassadors for the U.S. to Trinidad and Tobago. Have a good day.
Okay, you covered a lot of information there, but and that's part of probably one of my problems is that, no offense to you, Mr. Tama, you made all good points, but maybe it's my training as a lawyer too, and my knowledge, my knowing that when you want to do something, you have to focus on the point, and don't get distracted with the other factors. Keep to the point. And the point I'm making is, I watch Investigation Discovery. I'm sure a lot of people in Trinidad do, or other crime shows. And one of the things they are determined to do when there's a murder, for example, I'm not saying there's a murder here, but a crime then, let me put it as word that. The number one thing they want to define is what is the reason and what is the cause. So all those other things are distractions intended to, in my respectful opinion, to get you away from and get into this water, fire truck, no fire truck, hydra, no hydra. And you go down that rabbit hole, and hopefully you go down deep enough in the rabbit hole that you forget to ask, what is the cause? And we want to know, what is the cause?
And the thing is, we don't know if the fire service was sidelined somehow, unofficially, technically, but sidelined nevertheless. And I don't necessarily have much faith in the chief fire officer. I'll just put that out there. There's nothing that has been presented to me to cause me to have any degree of confidence in how the fire service is being run. It is what it is. We have moved on the line. Good morning, caller, on there.
Good morning. I'll try to bring further clarity. The Point of Pearl Oil Refinery is one of the largest assets that belongs to the government. It is a billion-dollar group of assets.
Yeah.
Therefore, we're calling on the government, do not dispose of the Point Research Refinery, the petroleum assets, with all the regulations that deals with the disposal of state lands. Thank you very much.
Yeah. That they passed. They passed, right?
Thank you, sir. That is what they do. And what they do now, follow it. I was inside there. And if I was inside there still, and I had, which I will not follow them, for sure. Patrick Manning, yes. Them, not at all. But I understand the thing because I have experienced and seen it in play to some extent. And I am telling you what they are using and what you must be careful not to fall for is get you to distract you and get you to go down a line that you even forgot. What was the thing we were really supposed to find out? What was the cause of the fire? Was it why Mr. Hector was really killed? Well, it looked like it had nothing to do with, just like Dana when they started that talk, and I won't say who or what, but I got a call saying, you think it is the Nyman Coolman prosecution? When the assistant DA out of the United States came and told us it was not a pocketbook, but it was a carefully planned assassination by a transshipment organization, transnational organization with its roots in Trinidad. What else you want to hear? BBC come out and say that we are a major transshipment point for cocaine. What else you want to hear?
I need to be what?
See, and what you're hearing from independent international forces telling you that, but apparently our government does not understand that because they're letting everything that can be used to fight that get into disrepair at billions of dollars worth. So what they want you to do is do not concentrate on that. We're going to get the state prosecutors on thing because they want you to believe the reason he was killed because he was prosecuted a gang leader. What's the name of the senior counsel, the lady senior counsel who's highly respected? Oh God, man, you don't have to have a senior moment, you know. I would be excused for that. But she came out immediately and said he was not actively involved in that. And in that same report, they made it their business to let you know he had been legal officer SSC. And then they spoke about the death of Daniel, who apparently was administrator for the CCTVs, for all a number of people, and that he was set up, and they talked about that same blacker. Put the two together. Do not let them make you not think independently. You think independently. Do not allow them to change the narrative and allow yourself to be taken down that rabbit hole. I do not have the answer because I do not have personal information, but I will put my 1 and 1 and 2 and get my maths right.
I'm not saying that it definitely is tied to the SSA, but I will say that we have no resolution with regards to the SSA situation.
But they are
right?
implying it.
Yes.
If you read the article.
So it's reasonable to ask those questions. There's no reason for us to confidently say, oh, the SSA situation, whatever it was fixed. We don't even
best is suing them.
We don't even know how far the situation goes, what the situation
exactly,
entails,
we don't know.
Right? And with regards to the refinery, I'll wrap this up here, Mova, and thank you for coming back to reiterate the point, because I think people might underestimate how important it is. It's an important asset. It's so important.
Belongs to who? Who does it belong to? You said the government. It doesn't belong to the government.
To the nation.
Thank you very much. You,
right?
You, Mr. Mova, it belongs to you too.
So the thing is, it was one of the major items in the budget in a section that was new to me. The section of these are the state assets that we're going to sell to try to make up some of the deficit, right? And the thing is, it goes back to what you pointed out and I was talking about, Karen. The Office of the Procurement Regulator will help give more trust and confidence in this situation But apparently, I don't think it's unreasonable for me to say that the current administration has put so much importance on this situation, they don't want to go through the OPR.
No. They know. Listen, you cannot help but think, because they operate different, because the Procurement Regulation Act, longer term than that, would replace the Central Tenant Board's ordinance, and it's very wide powers that are given to the procurement regulator, because the powers of the regulator doesn't only end at the bid process, but it has the right to review it along the way, oversee it along the way, and not to give a sign off unless all what is required, so they don't have these change orders. And also there are a number of powers under the legislation that the regulator has.
One of the questions I would like to know is exactly what is the legal framework that the process of this sale is going through by?
But because they don't have because they don't have the regulations in place, therefore the procurement regulator would not have a.
So then to say that the procurement regulator's office is up and running would not be completely true.
It's up.
It's up. Yeah, exactly.
Running is maybe an extreme exaggeration, but then that's all part of what you're supposed to tell you.
So we'll have to end things there. I want to thank all of our callers and all of the points that they brought up. Yes, again, you're saying that some of the people involved in Trump administration went before, right? And I'm saying wait for that pendulum to swing to the extreme the next way. That's all I'm saying. I'm not looking forward to it, right? As much as I think it went too far left, it probably will very easily go too far right.
I agree with
and that's why we need more open dialogue on these issues as opposed to just assuming, well, the guy in charge is right. Karen, thanks for joining me once again.
Welcome. Sometimes I think I am a little bit too outspoken, but I can assure you all my information is from what I get from newspapers. Nobody comes whispering in my ear, and I hope to be of service to my country, our nation, and to give persons an opportunity to critically think and come to their own conclusion. Thank you for having me, Sean. Thank you for the station always in allowing me to express my views and openly and hopefully responsibly. Thank you.
Folks, in order to make today a good day, as Mr. Shaw would always say, we have to try. And I will just point that out. We need to do as much as we can and not just put our heads in the sand. So remember your allegiance to this republic. Ask not what your country could only do for you, but also what you can do for your country. Remember that quote. It's nice to be nice.
Whom? From whom?
For whom?
John F. Kennedy.
Yes, Professor. It's nice to be nice, folks. Stay safe. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
WESN.
Her voice has mesmerized us for years.
And now, in a rare treat for music fans,
Shakuntala and Friends in concert, featuring Shakuntala Jangbahadur. Singing sensation Deval Chaitlal, brilliant musician Dr. Shivanan Maharaj, master flautist and saxophonist Narendra Maharaj, with music from Shiv Sangeet Orchestra, Shakuntala and Friends in concert.
Shakuntala.
Between the Bank and the Gutter, a novel about street dwellers in Port of Spain. This is a book to make you both laugh and cry. Above all, it takes you to that special space that only street dwellers know. In this moving and riveting human interest story, Harry journeys from insanity to sanity while living on the streets of Port of Spain. Now available at Metropolitan